Somewhere out there, right now, there is a patch of ocean. It doesn't appear on any official map. No government recognizes it. No maritime authority has ever drawn its borders in ink. And yet, over the past 500 years, it has allegedly swallowed 20 planes, 50 ships, and hundreds of human beings. Without a trace. No wreckage. No distress signals. No bodies. Just gone. We're talking, of course, about the Bermuda Triangle. And before you roll your eyes and say, Alina, come on, we all know that's not real. I want you to stay with me. Because yes, we have the data now. Yes, scientists have studied this extensively. And yes, the truth has finally emerged. But here's the thing. The truth? It's almost weirder than the myth. Welcome back to Pulsecast USA. I'm Alina. Today we are going somewhere that has terrified sailors, confused pilots, baffled scientists, and absolutely delighted conspiracy theorists for centuries. The Bermuda Triangle. Now, I'm going to be real with you from the start, the way I always am. We are going to look at everything. The history. The disappearances. The wildest theories, aliens, Atlantis, interdimensional portals, methane explosions, all of it. And then we are going to look at what the actual data says. Because here's what nobody tells you in the headline version of this story. The data exists. It's been collected. It's been analyzed. And it tells a story that is completely different from the legend. But to understand why that matters, you have to understand how the legend was built. Brick by brick. Century by century. Disappearance by disappearance. So, let's go back. Way back. First things first. Where's the Bermuda Triangle? Here's the first fun fact that most people don't know. It's not officially anywhere. The Bermuda Triangle is not recognized by the United States government. It doesn't appear on any official nautical charts. Its boundaries have never been formally defined. Unofficially, it's a region of the North Atlantic Ocean, roughly bounded by the southeastern coast of the United States, the island of Bermuda to the northeast, and Puerto Rico to the south. But even that is disputed. Estimates of the total area range between 500,000 and 1.5 million square miles. That's a range of 1 million square miles. So the most famous geographical mystery in the world doesn't actually have a geography. Depending on who you ask, the triangle could be an isosceles, a scalene, it might not even technically be a triangle. Maybe a rhombus. The Bermuda rhombus just doesn't have the same ring to it, does it? But none of that stopped the stories from starting. And the very first story goes all the way back to 1492. The year is 1492. Christopher Columbus sets sail from Spain with 3 ships, on a mission to find a western route to Asia. After 10 weeks crossing the Atlantic, land is finally sighted. He steps ashore on a small island in the Bahamas, which he names San Salvador. To get there, he would have been the first European to sail through the Sargasso Sea. The exact body of water that sits at the heart of what we now call the Bermuda Triangle. And he came back to tell everyone about it. His log entries, compiled shortly after his death and later translated, contain details that stopped me cold when I first read them. In September 1492, Columbus wrote that something was affecting his compass. His exact words described how the compass is northwest at the beginning of night and northeast in the morning. A few days later, he reported the sea rising to great heights. And then, most chillingly of all, he described seeing a light on the horizon. Something he compared to a small wax candle. Rising and lifting. Appearing and disappearing. Now imagine hearing that report 500 years ago. Before electricity. Before radar. Before anyone had mapped most of the world. A flickering light on the ocean with no explanation. You can see exactly how the mythology begins. The stories kept coming. For centuries. In the early 1600s, a ship called the Sea Venture set off from England to resupply the struggling colony at Jamestown, Virginia. Just off the coast of the uninhabited island chain of Bermuda, the fleet sailed directly into a hurricane. The ship was destroyed. The crew was marooned. It's believed this shipwreck directly inspired Shakespeare's play The Tempest, in which he calls Bermuda a vexed and cursed place. If Shakespeare thought it was cursed, you know the legend was already taking hold. Then there's 1881. The story of the Ellen Austin. A cargo ship sailing from Liverpool to New York reportedly encountered a ghost ship in the Sargasso Sea. Completely silent. No crew aboard. But full of cargo, almost like bait. The captain sent some of his best men over to sail the mysterious vessel back to New York alongside them. They caught a storm. The ships separated. When the weather cleared, the ghost ship was back in sight. But silent again. Empty again. The men, gone. The captain, apparently not learning his lesson, sent a second crew over. You can probably guess how that ended. Now, to be fair, Lloyd's of London's Register of Ships confirmed that the Ellen Austin's 1881 voyage actually went without incident. So take that one with some salt water. But the stories kept building. And then came the ones that are impossible to dismiss. In March 1918, the USS Cyclops, a 542-foot U.S. Navy cargo ship carrying over 300 men and 10,000 tons of manganese ore, left Rio de Janeiro bound for Baltimore, made an unplanned stop in Barbados, then headed north, and was never seen again. No SOS. No wreckage. No survivors. The largest loss of life in U.S. naval history not directly related to combat. President Woodrow Wilson himself said, "Only God and the sea know what happened to the great ship." In 1941, two of the Cyclops' sister ships vanished on nearly the same route. And then, December 1945. The event that truly put the Bermuda Triangle on the map forever. Flight 19. 5 U.S. Navy TBM Avenger torpedo bombers. 14 men. Taking off from Fort Lauderdale on a routine training run. Within hours, the lead pilot is on the radio. "We cannot be sure of where we are." 20 minutes later, command is transferred to a new flight leader, for reasons that were never fully explained. And then, the final radio transmission from Flight 19. "It looks like we are entering white water. We are completely lost." All 5 planes flew until they ran out of fuel and were forced to ditch somewhere in the ocean. That same day, a rescue plane sent to find them also disappeared. 13 more men. Gone. After a week-long search that found nothing, the official U.S. Navy report declared it was as if they had flown to Mars. No wreckage. No trace. No explanation. You want to talk about something that captures the human imagination? That's it. And it didn't stop there. In 1948 and 1949, 2 British passenger aircraft disappeared on flights through or near the area. Neither was ever found. By this point, the world was paying attention. All of these incidents needed a name. A frame. A way to connect the dots. And in February 1964, American author Vincent Gaddis provided exactly that, in the pages of Argosy magazine. Draw a line from Florida to Bermuda. Another from Bermuda to Puerto Rico. A third back to Florida through the Bahamas. Within this area, the Bermuda Triangle, most of the total vanishments have occurred. That was it. That was the spark. Because this was the era of the Cold War. The Cuban Missile Crisis. NASA was filling in the blanks of the universe, and here, in this small patch of ocean, was something that defied every explanation. People went wild for it. Books flooded the market. The most popular of all, Charles Berlitz's The Bermuda Triangle, published in 1974. 20 million copies. 30+ languages. And Berlitz? He was not shy about his theories. Atlantis? Absolutely. Berlitz argued the lost city was pulling ships and planes into its depths from below. Alien abductions? Of course. The missing distress calls? Clearly extraterrestrial interference. Interdimensional portals? Why not? A gateway beneath the sea transcending time and space to another dimension entirely. Steven Spielberg even got in on it, depicting the Flight 19 crew as alien abductees in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Look, I'm not here to judge. In the 1970s, with limited data and maximum imagination, these theories were intoxicating. Because humans are wired to find patterns. We are wired to need explanations. And when conventional explanations fail us, we reach for extraordinary ones. But here's where the story gets really interesting. Because the extraordinary explanations? They weren't needed. The ordinary ones, the scientific ones, are already strange enough. Okay. Let's talk about what scientists have actually proposed. And I want to be clear, some of these are genuinely supported by evidence. Some are plausible hypotheses. And some are a stretch. I'll tell you which is which. Theory 1, compass malfunction and magnetic declination. This one comes up constantly in Bermuda Triangle accounts, starting with Columbus himself. The claim is that the triangle is one of only 2 places on Earth where a compass points to true north rather than magnetic north. Here's how it works. A compass needle is attracted to Earth's magnetic North Pole, which is not the same as the geographic North Pole. The difference between the 2 readings is called magnetic declination. It changes depending on where you are on the globe. The agonic line is the imaginary line where true north and magnetic north are in perfect alignment, where the declination is 0. For a long time, this agonic line did pass through the Bermuda Triangle, which meant compasses behaved differently here. But here's the thing, scientists have tracked the westward drift of the agonic line over decades. And it now falls within the Gulf of Mexico. It no longer runs through the triangle at all. So while compass variation may have contributed to historical incidents, it doesn't explain modern ones. Theory 2, rogue waves. These are real. Abnormally large waves, up to 100 feet tall, that can appear with almost no warning. The first one ever recorded by an instrument was on January 1, 1995, in the North Sea. 84 feet tall. A wave like that hitting a ship could destroy it so completely and so quickly that there would be no time for a distress call and no wreckage large enough to find afterward. The Gulf Stream runs right along the western edge of the triangle, and it moves fast. Up to 4 or 5 knots per hour in some areas. For context, that's 300 times faster than the Amazon River. Fast enough to throw sailors miles off course. Fast enough to erase evidence of a disaster within hours. Theory 3, methane hydrates. This is the newest one, and honestly the most dramatic. In 2016, researchers at the Arctic University of Norway discovered massive underwater craters off the coast of Norway. Some up to half a mile wide. They believe these craters were formed by the explosive release of methane gas trapped beneath the ocean floor, essentially giant underwater explosions. If that happened beneath a ship, a massive methane blowout could reduce the water density enough that a vessel would simply sink without warning. And a plane flying through a methane gas cloud could theoretically experience engine failure. Now, the Norwegian researchers were very clear that they were not connecting this to the Bermuda Triangle. But other scientists made the leap anyway. And the media loved it. Is it possible? Yes. Is it proven? No. Is it the main explanation? Almost certainly not. So what is? Okay. This is the part of the video where everything changes. Because while everyone was arguing about aliens and methane and Atlantis, researchers were quietly collecting data. Real, systematic, decades-long data on maritime and aviation incidents across the entire globe. And when they compared the Bermuda Triangle to everywhere else, the results were stunning. Using a marine casualty dataset covering over 150,000 records from 1982 to 2015, researchers identified around 9,000 incidents for detailed analysis. How many of those were in the Bermuda Triangle? 361. That's 4%. And here is the part that should make every Bermuda Triangle believer sit up straight. Of those 361 incidents, none were classified as unexplained disappearances. 0. Between 1982 and 2015. YouTuber Johnny Harris took it even further, obtaining shipping data from Lloyd's list for the entire year of 2021. Of the 8,634 boats that passed through the Bermuda Triangle that year, there were only 2 casualties. That's 0.02%. According to Lloyd's data, the danger of disappearing in the Bermuda Triangle is actually 90 times lower than the global average. 90 times lower. Lloyd's of London, the world's most famous insurance market, a company that has been tracking maritime risk for centuries, does not charge higher premiums for ships traveling through the Bermuda Triangle. Because statistically, it's not dangerous. The US Coast Guard backs this up entirely. The number of ships that go missing in the Bermuda Triangle, on a percentage basis, is the same as anywhere else in the world. The aviation data tells the same story. The NTSB database, covering every investigated aviation accident from 1962 to present, shows that most incidents in the broader region occurred during landing and takeoff in the Bahamas. The only documented commercial flight accident was attributed to poor weather decisions by the pilot. Since 1965, there has been one aviation incident over Bermuda itself. A JetBlue flight experienced turbulence. One injury. One injury. In 60 years. So what about Flight 19? The most famous disappearance of all? The one the Navy said was like flying to Mars? When researchers went back and analyzed the full radio transcripts, a very human, very heartbreaking picture emerged. Lieutenant Taylor, the lead pilot, believed his compass had malfunctioned. He thought he was flying above the Florida Keys, the string of islands stretching southwest of the US mainland. But ground staff tracking the flight could see he was actually to the southeast, near an island in the Bahamas. Heading the wrong direction entirely. Instead of turning back west toward Florida, Taylor kept flying east, deeper and deeper into the Atlantic Ocean. Australian scientist Carl Kraszelnicki later noted that according to records, Taylor had gotten lost on previous occasions. In all likelihood, one of the most haunting disappearances in aviation history was the result of navigational confusion compounded by bad luck in one of the most storm-prone regions on Earth. Not aliens. Not a portal. Human error. In a part of the world where the weather is genuinely, legitimately, extraordinarily dangerous. And that is actually the most important context of all. Let's talk about what is genuinely extraordinary about this region. Because there is something extraordinary. Just not what you think. The weather. The Bermuda Triangle sits at the intersection of some of the most violent and unpredictable weather systems on the planet. Hurricane season passes directly through this area. Florida has been hit by tropical storms so frequently that since 1851, only 18 hurricane seasons have passed without a known storm impacting the state. Puerto Rico gets hit by hurricanes 4 or 5 times a year. We saw what 2024's hurricane season did to this region. And we have radar, satellites, supercomputers running weather models 24 hours a day. Imagine navigating those same waters in 1918. In a cargo ship. With a radio and a prayer. Imagine flying over them in 1945 in a propeller plane with a compass and hope. The mystery isn't that some ships and planes were lost. The mystery is that more weren't. So why did the legend survive for so long? Because of something very fundamental about human psychology. We are pattern-seeking creatures. When something terrible happens with no explanation, we reach for one. Anyone. Even if it involves interdimensional portals. And here's the other thing, the boundaries of the triangle were never fixed. Which means that any incident anywhere near that general region could be added to the list. A ship lost in a storm off the coast of Florida? Bermuda Triangle. A plane lost over the Atlantic? Bermuda Triangle. Events spread across 500 years and potentially 1 million square miles of ocean were all funneled into one terrifying narrative. And once Charles Berlitz sold 20 million copies of a book telling people the triangle was real, the myth had critical mass. It became self-sustaining. But here's the thing I keep coming back to. The real story? The true story of a region with extreme weather, powerful ocean currents, centuries of maritime travel, genuine tragedies that do have real and heartbreaking explanations? That story is just as compelling as the myth. Maybe more so. Because the truth doesn't diminish the bravery of the men who sailed and flew through that region. It doesn't make their losses less real. The USS Cyclops and 300 men still vanished. Flight 19 still never came home. The ocean is vast. Storms are merciless. And humans, even brave, experienced, skilled humans, make mistakes. That's not a disappointing conclusion. That's a humbling one. So here's where we land. The Bermuda Triangle is not a supernatural death zone. It is not a portal. It is not an alien abduction site. It is not the resting place of Atlantis. It is, statistically, 90 times safer than the global average for maritime travel. And yet, it gave us 500 years of stories that captured the human imagination more completely than almost any mystery in history. Maybe that's because what we were really afraid of was never the triangle itself. Maybe we were afraid of the ocean. Of how big it is. Of how easily it can take something, someone, and leave nothing behind. The Bermuda Triangle gave that fear a shape. A name. A set of coordinates, even if those coordinates were never quite agreed upon. And sometimes, that's what we need. Not an answer. Just a shape for the fear. But now you have the answer too. And the next time someone brings this up at dinner, you can confidently tell them, statistically, you are more likely to have an incident driving to your nearest airport than you are crossing the Bermuda Triangle. Whether they believe you is, of course, a different matter. I'm Alina. This is Pulsecast USA. If this blew your mind, subscribe. Drop a comment telling me which Bermuda Triangle theory you used to believe. I genuinely want to know. I'll see you in the next one.